It's a little terrifying because you absolutely cannot miss.
Goalies now are completely at a premium.
Not, right? Like, Canada doesn't have a ton of great options.
Welcome to the big show, brought to you by True Hockey. I am Ryan Kennedy, joined as always by Michael Traikos, and joined today by a special guest, Nate Ewell, a hockey lifer. He has worked for the Washington Capitals. He has worked for College Hockey Incorporated. He joins us from Las Vegas this morning. Nate, glad to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Right on. Well, let's get into your wheelhouse right away. You worked for the Washington Capitals in media relations for years. Alex Ovechkin closing in on 900 career goals. I believe he is 2 away at the time of recording here. He broke the record last year. That was obviously the big deal. But 900, that is a very significant number. And let's go back in the archives here. What do you remember about young Alex Ovechkin and the beginning of what has turned into an iconic career?
I think for me, the coolest thing when he came into the league was just how everybody embraced him. You know, it was a fun time in terms of coming back out of the lockout, and everybody was happy to have hockey back. But more than anything, I feel like people were happy to have this infectious, lovable character that joined the league. And actually, one of my favorite kind of mementos from back then is the Hockey News cover. And it was Ovi, and it was something to the effect of everybody in the NHL, why the NHL loves Ovi. And I think that lovability, it just kind of caught people, you know, and everybody talks about Sid and Ovi and coming in together. Sid's lovable in different ways, right? Ovi's more of the character. He's more of the joy of life type of personality. And that was something that I think caught everybody just really at the right time. Was fun to be around. You know, those weren't very good teams in those first 2 years for him in Washington. But it was still fun to come to the rink because you never knew what you were going to see. You never knew what to expect from him on or off the ice. You know, it could be the crazy ripped jeans that he'd wear or things like that. But then on the ice, he'd do something unbelievable.
Hey, the timing, Nate, that's the big thing with me. And I don't think we've ever seen like a perfect storm where you got to remember, like, the lockout had happened the year before. And because of the lockout, you had a lot of rule changes where the shackles were off. Like, all that clutching and grabbing was gone. They were now going to call it. And then you had two young superstars in Ovi and Crosby, who, you know, I guess we're seeing it now with McDavid and Matthews to an extent, but really, like, those guys came in and it was such a fresh, like, a breath of fresh air for the NHL where, you know, that rookie year, like, they both just had outstanding years, and it was just kind of like, all right, new NHL, this is what we're going to get.
Yeah. And I remember, you know, I was doing media relations, so everybody wanted to talk to Ovi, and we were, he was happy to oblige. He didn't speak great English, but wanted to learn and wanted to try every opportunity he had. I remember asking some of the veteran guys, and Jeff Halpern was their captain at that point. And I asked Jeff, I'm like, hey, is this going to cause a problem that he is so front and center? And he's like, absolutely not. Like, we all know what we have here. We all know what this guy means to the game. And keep on doing it. Let him talk. Let him take the center stage. Like, he deserves it. He's that special.
Hey, Nate, I'm curious, you know, talking about Ovi and Crosby and how different they were personality-wise, but how amazing they both were on the ice and what they meant in those early years after the lockout. You know, there was that rivalry early on, and then I also think about the Ovechkin-Malkin rivalry that sort of became a friendship in fantastic circumstances at the Montreal All-Star game, which, if I'm not mistaken, was brokered by Ilya Kovalchuk. But when do you think the relationship kind of like evolved for Crosby and Ovechkin? I'm sure they always respected each other, but because they were division rivals, you know, playing each other in the playoffs, it felt like maybe it took some time before, you know, they became like sort of like off ice friends. Did you see an evolution there, or were they always good and it was just sort of us in the media who loved the idea of Crosby versus Ovechkin all the time?
I think most of the evolution took place. I left in 2011, and most of it was after I was there. But you could see an arc there where at first, that first year, they got thrown into a lot of things together, where we went to New York together and had to do a Sports Illustrated photo shoot, and they got along fine. And, it was comfortable. It was friendly, not necessarily friendship, but friendly. Mm-hmm. As both teams got better and got into the playoffs, I do think that kind of friction was inevitable, right? They're competing and they're ultimate competitors. It's fun to see now where it's evolved to obviously much more friendship. So I think it's probably come back almost full circle in a way, back to friendly, but more even warmer than it was originally.
Yeah, I got to think that, Ovi watching Crosby win multiple cups, and he was still kind of searching for that one. And, there were all that talk about, okay, is this guy a coach killer? Is he a me first player? And, it was probably a lot to do about nothing, because finally when he won, it was like all that talk went away. It seemed like the rivalry maybe got a little bit, it decimated a bit. Like it wasn't about like Crosby or Ovi, who's the better player? It's like, well, they're both outstanding players. Like, let's face it. End of the day, they're both going to be on the kind of Mount Rushmore of the greatest players to have played the game. And it just seemed like that was such a relief when he won that Stanley Cup. I wonder if you kind of sensed that early on, Nate, where that was a huge driver for him and something that he really wanted to accomplish, even as a young player.
Absolutely, always driven to win. Like, and in a way that I don't know that everybody outside could see. I don't know that because his teams didn't have that, the gold medal, the cups that Sid enjoyed relatively early in his career, didn't get credit for being such a driven winner, guy who wants to win. That's all. Ovi loves to score goals. He wants to win more than anything else. And I think, to me, as an Ovi fan, moving on in my career, it was more rewarding to see the cup in 2018 than to see the record broken last year, just because, that was more of something that people doubted in him, right? And said that he couldn't do. Now, nobody expected anybody to break Gretzky's record, but people weren't saying, yeah, he can't, this guy can't do that, like they would say that he couldn't lead a team to a cup.
Right.
Well, and one of the most legendary quotes in the history of the hockey news came from Ovechkin early in his career. I believe he had already won a couple of individual trophies, obviously the Calder. But he said, and I think it was to Ken Campbell, he's like, I want to win the Stanley Cup because cups is cups. And to this day, we still love to say cups is cups. One more thing on Ovechkin before we move on. Right now, Caps are doing pretty well this season. But Spencer Carberry, their coach, who has been a fantastic coach so far, very much sheltering Ovechkin's minutes early on. Not giving him many defensive assignments, or any defensive assignments for that matter, but really putting him in a position to score. Michael, go to you with this. How do you feel about that strategy of just kind of letting the Ovechkin line take care of the offense and putting the defense on some of the other lines early on?
Well, I think Spencer Carberry is probably doing what most fans want is, do I want Ovechkin playing defense and on the defensive side? No, I just want him one-timing pucks into the net, Ryan. And I think, the Capitals have enough guys that can play two-way hockey. If I'm coaching Alex Ovechkin, I'm telling him, okay, pick your spot, but play like beer league hockey. Like, come back on the south side of the red line, once or twice a game. Other than that, just wait for that pass and fire it in. And, Ovechkin hasn't had that hot start yet. What has he got? Like one goal so far this season. And yet, I know we're going to talk about it later in the show, how many we're betting on him to have. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he does finish with, maybe not 50 goals, but, more than 30, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Save it for rapid fire.
I know.
Anyways,
Can't wait. Can't wait.
You must. Okay, let's move on to another team that has won cups, but is not looking the strongest right now. The Tampa Bay Lightning, dead last in the Eastern Conference. I don't know when we said that the last time. It's certainly been years. They lost to Chicago in spectacular fashion last night, giving up the game-winning goal in the last minute. Nikita Kucherov turns it over at the offensive blue line, and then basically watches Chicago march down the ice. His guy, Ryan Donato, ended up scoring the winner. At what point do we worry about the Lightning? And Nate, I'll go to you first on this because you have known John Cooper perhaps longer than anybody else in hockey at this point. Maybe you can just fill us in on that. And at what point do you worry, knowing that John Cooper is behind the bench and knows how to take care of business?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to get to know Coop back in the late 90s. He was a lawyer and lived in East Lansing, Michigan. I was working for Michigan State at the time. And one of, he's obviously a hockey lifer, hockey guy. One of the frequent clients that he would take on, or I should say pool of clients, would be if a Michigan State hockey player ever found himself in trouble with the law, then they would turn to John Cooper. So got to know Coop really well. I know Coop loves a challenge. He wasn't even coaching when I met him. So, for me to say I have any expertise on how he's going to coach a team out of this situation, I couldn't, but I would say that he loves a challenge. I think coaches at his level, and he's the best there is in the game, almost relish when a situation like this is presented in front of him. Like I think that he hated, obviously, the Columbus sweep in the playoffs, but to be able to come back and coach that team and take that example of, hey, we can't let this happen, and make that team better, I think made Tampa better in the long run. I wonder if a start like this isn't exactly what they need to kind of grab their attention and to say, this isn't the way that we play. This isn't what we do. And you look at times where maybe it bottoms out. Maybe last night was it.
Yeah. Normally I would not be worried, Ryan, because it is the Tampa Bay Lightning and they have that knack of flipping the switch and becoming a Stanley Cup threat whenever they wanted. But that was like 3 years ago that Tampa Bay Lightning did that. Now that's the Florida Panthers where you're going, it's all right. It's only October. Yeah, they'll be fine. Once April comes around, then all of a sudden they'll start playing well and their guys will come back. But Tampa Bay now is back-to-back first-round exits. Vasilevsky, he's notoriously a slow starter, so maybe that's one thing that you can kind of put away. But I think the big question is, if you are John Cooper and you're the Team Canada staff right now, you're probably looking at Brendan Hagel going, this guy hasn't scored a goal yet. I think he's got like one assist. Off to a really weird start when you compare him last year, where he was like the hottest player and basically willed his way onto that Four Nations team. So, Kucherov's looking pretty good, like from a statistical standpoint. So is Gensel and Braden Point, and even Victor Hedman. No goals, but he's picking up assists. But the one guy I'm kind of worried about is Hagel, and I don't want to say he's the heartbeat of that team and he drags guys into the fight, but he is sort of that guy that, if you're in a kind of a rut of a game and nothing's going your way, he can inject some juice, and I'm just not seeing it from him or the Lightning right now.
Yeah, and this goes for any team where if you get off to a very slow start, the hill just becomes so high to climb. I remember talking to Matt Barzal about this a few years ago with the Islanders when they got off to a dreadful start, and he was like, literally every game we played from like November on was do or die, and that's really difficult to do in the NHL. And then, of course, when you get to the second half and the standings are all bunched up, it's hard to gain points on teams when you have the loser point in overtime. I would also say, for Tampa Bay specifically, it will be very interesting to see, assuming that they pick up some wins and they're not like completely out of it. by the Olympic break, you're going to have a lot of guys on Olympic duty. Hedman obviously will be big for Sweden. You'll have Gensel. I think, Hagel will probably be there because of his 4 nations for Canada, but I guess we'll see. Braden
Maybe
Point.
Sorelli too.
Sorelli, yeah. I mean, John Cooper knows these guys. He knows that they can win titles, so why not? But Kucherov and Vasilevsky will not be at the Olympics because Russia won't be there, so they'll get a rest. So who knows what kind of X factor that will be when all is said and done. Now, speaking of the Olympics, I didn't know this was ever going to be a topic this season, but Matthew Schaefer, the 18-year-old rookie with the New York Islanders, continues to be on fire. The Islanders absolutely pasted the Red Wings Thursday night, which, given how Detroit was playing, was pretty surprising. But do we at least have to entertain the possibility that Matthew Schaefer could play on Canada's Olympic blue line? Mike, I'll go to you first.
Again, like what you just said, Ryan, like this was a question that I didn't think we'd be asking at all. I thought we'd be saying, should Matthew Schaefer be sent down to the World Juniors and be representing Canada there in Minnesota, where it's going to be held this year? Instead, we're now having a question of, I honestly, when I look at that Canadian blue line, I'd have him ahead of, some bubble guys like an Evan Bouchard, 100%. The kid just looks fantastic. And again, it's hard to believe he's only 18 years old. The only question is, Canada and the other countries had to submit a 44-man roster, a preliminary roster, where I don't believe you're able to take anyone to the Olympics who wasn't on that roster. So I hope Canada had the foresight to say, all right, let's just put him on there just in case, because right now I'd 100% have him, even if it's sit up in the stands on the taxi squad and just go, okay, just be around these guys, because I know 4 years from now you're going to be a mainstay on the defense. So we'll see. But yeah, for me, I don't know how you keep him off this team.
Yeah, the poise is just incredible. And Nate, again, going back to your time in Washington, seeing what Ovechkin did under those circumstances and seeing Crosby, play him game in, game out. I mean, what have you thought of just the ability of Matthew Schaefer to come in as a teenager and put up more than a point per game from the blue line on a New York team that I don't think any of us really had high expectations for coming into the season?
Yeah, I think the energy that he has injected into that team is really amazing. And that's what I'm curious to see, is what's the next month look like, right? And I think to Mike's point, right now, if you're putting a team together to play tomorrow, you take him because he's been that unbelievable. Can he sustain it? You've seen guys come in with that kind of energy, whether it's a recall or a rookie starting the season before. This might be to another level, so maybe he can sustain it, and maybe we'll see more of this over the next month. I think that's the thing that those Canadian staffers will be watching closely to see. If we're still having this conversation in a month, I don't know how you can keep them off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of funny too. It's like we always talk with rookies about that 9-game mark, where if you play the 10th game, your entry level deal kicks in. So teams often send guys back to junior. It's like Schaefer, he hasn't even played 9 games yet, but it's pretty obvious at this point that he's going to get a 10th game, probably an 82nd game as well. So it'll be very interesting to follow his progress. Nate, I want to switch gears here. You worked for College Hockey Incorporated for years, an organization that sort of functions as a de facto promotional vehicle for the NCAA, educating players on what they need to do to be college eligible, why they might want to go that route. The world completely different now because you can play major, junior, and NCAA hockey, which you couldn't do even this time last year. It was in early November when the rule changed. The NCAA is having a moment. Boston University and Michigan State played on the weekend. Big ratings on ESPN2, 4th most watched regular season game on an ESPN network, and the best since 2018 for a college hockey game. That follows on the heels of the NHL network broadcasting Arizona State's opener against Penn State, which obviously featured Gavin McKenna, who we expect to go first overall in the 2026 draft. They also put it on YouTube, so literally everybody could watch Penn State and Arizona State playing college hockey. So Nate, I ask you, what does this mean for college hockey, this momentum, and just what you've seen so far in this new era of excitement?
It's tremendous. It's really a fun time to be a college hockey fan. It's the most talent that college hockey has ever had. And college hockey's really been blossoming, I would say, in the last 10 years. So it's been building to this, and now to take this momentous leap forward by allowing the CHL players to play is really something. You think about it, when I started at College Hockey Inc. in 2011, you couldn't have an Arizona State Penn State game on TV because neither of them had teams. This is unbelievable that now the best prospect in the world is playing for Penn State. And you know, you've got 600,000 alumni at Penn State who now have a connection to Gavin McKenna. This is the dream that college hockey fans have always had, that these big schools would adopt the sport, and now we're going to see NHL stars that are connected to the fan bases of an Arizona State, like Joey Decord, you know, and all the Arizona State alums that have this personal connection to him because he went to my school. I just think it's so much fun to see, and for college hockey fans, it's been a long time coming. I feel like when I was at College Hockey Inc., we made a big step forward, really coming out of that 2015 draft class when Eichel and Hannafin and Werenski were in the top 8 and all chose the college path. Now you don't need to choose the college path in advance. You're going to have it presented to you. And you see with guys like McKenna, I do think the next group of prospects are going to want to follow his lead and continue to play in the college level.
Yeah, that expansion is the biggest key. And you really nailed it there, Nate. Like it used, for me, it always seemed like the Beanpot was like the big tournament. And now, obviously the Frozen Four is going to encompass more teams than just the teams in the Boston area. But, you've got teams in Penn State, you got teams in Arizona. Obviously, Michigan and Minnesota are going to be huge in that regard. But it just seems like there's talent everywhere. And I really feel for the CHL because I don't know how they are going to be able to compete on a national scale with the NCAA, or if that's even possible even now.
I do think, it's going to be the best option for kids in their most of them in their teenage years, right? So I feel more for, say, the USHL, the other feeder leagues that were providing college talent in the past. Now they make it look past, even though they have a great product as well. So that's where I would worry more, because I think the CHL is just going to have really high-end younger talent as opposed to the 19-year-old, the 20-year-old. What I do fear a little bit, we have seen the growth with Penn State, Arizona State. Can we continue to grow and accommodate the amount of talent that wants to play college hockey, right? Mm-hmm. So college sports landscape looking outside of college hockey has probably never been worse in terms of challenges to universities funding their college teams and keeping up with things like the house settlement. So on the football side, you've got expenditures that you've never dealt with before. Are there going to be schools that say, okay, let's jump into the college hockey game now? That would be a little bit of a concern on my end. Yeah,
that's a great point, Nate. And Mike, just talking about how things are going, I actually got this stat the other day. There are 206 Americans playing in Major Junior this year. It's basically like 4 times as much as there were just a few years ago, because you can now play in Major Junior before going to college. So I think the CHL, it's going to, like, the high-end talent will be there when they're a bit younger, and then maybe you lose them, at 18 or 19 to the college ranks. But it is such an interesting evolution. But just going back on that expansion piece, because this is something I'm fascinated by. I would love to see, more West Coast schools, more Southern schools get into college hockey. But I also know just speaking to people in the industry, that if you're looking to start like a legit college hockey program right now, like if you had to build like an arena from scratch on top of getting the coaches, having other facilities, everything that goes into it, you might be looking at like $200 million. And Nate, maybe you can speak to just how difficult it is to pull off, what Penn State did. And of course they had, Terry Pagula funding it, and Arizona State had donors as well that stepped up so they could have Mullet Arena. But it's not as easy as I would like it to be, right? You can't just say like, hey, University of Georgia, you should have a team, or like University of Texas, like that would be awesome, you should have a team. Like it's really not that easy, is it?
It's not. And I think the arena is probably the biggest piece. Title IX is another big piece, although women's hockey is growing and should be looked at by more schools as a legitimate option to add. You would need to find the perfect fit. And I'll give a plug for University of Nevada. I live in Nevada here. University of Nevada, Reno. UNLV, certainly in Las Vegas, has shown success in the club level. They won the club national championship last year. My kid's playing club up in Reno. They should go Division I and cut him. He wouldn't be able to play, but that's okay. They're building a beautiful new arena in downtown Reno. It's going to be home to their basketball team. Put a hockey facility in there. Put a hockey locker room. I think it would be a great spot. Again, like you said, you need an arena. You need a place to play. But places are showing, places like Arizona State and Penn State, how impactful it can be. And who knows, 10 years down the line, you might have the best prospect in the world on your team.
There you go. Go Wolfpack. Let's do it. Speaking of that area and new teams, the Utah Mammoth, the NHL's pseudo newest team because they moved from Arizona. They've started the season 6-2, including a big win last night over St. Louis, although it got a little dodgy there at one moment or two. But Mike, I'll go to you first. Are the Mammoth a playoff team in that deadly Central Division?
I think at the beginning of the year I said yes, so I'm going to stick with that answer. There comes a time where you can only keep grabbing more and more prospects and draft picks. Eventually you have to take that step, and I think this year is the year where Utah was saying, okay, like we got to get it done. We can't just come out to a decent hot start and have our young guys like a Dylan Guenther or a Logan Cooley. This can't just be a development year. This has to be a contending year. And when I look at Utah right now, I know they're in a hard division, but every division is hard. And so it doesn't get easier in the Atlantic, or maybe it does get easier in the Metro because that one is so topsy-turvy. Yeah. But, they've got to see themselves as this is the year where we do take that giant step. And, to their credit, they are getting great production. Like I mentioned, Dylan Guenther, 4 goals, 9 points in 8 games. Clayton Keller's got 12 points in 8 games. Logan Cooley, 5 goals in 8 games. So the young guys are not only developing and producing, but they're the reason why Utah is where they are right now.
Yeah. And Nate, the Mammoth, leaning on some of those college kids right now.
7 goals last night, all from college guys. So love to see the production. And like you said, I do think, Mike, that group of young talent is now aged enough. They're still young, but they're experienced enough that you can expect more from them. And it certainly seems like they're delivering.
Yeah. And I think just, the speed of guys like Cooley and JJ Pateka, who was obviously the big offseason acquisition, is really sort of pushing them forward. And let's not forget, I think they played Colorado twice already. So it's not like they've had like a cupcake schedule. Like the Mammoth are getting legit wins here. And Mike, I'm with you. I think at this point, we should see them as a playoff team, especially because the Minnesota Wild have gotten off to a horrendous start. Or at least they're on a big skid right now. So it does feel like there's some daylight there where maybe you grab that first wild card spot in the Central, or maybe it's the second. We might see, 5 in the Central and only 3 in the Pacific, because the Pacific we've seen has been a top-heavy division. One more here. And we'll talk about the Pacific. The San Jose Sharks picked up their first victory of the season last night, a thriller against the Rangers. They won it in overtime, which is great news for the Sharks. It's terrible news for Coach Ryan Warsofsky's kids, because he said that he would trade one of them for a victory earlier in the week. Now he must make that decision, a la King Solomon. I do not envy him. But all jokes aside, Macklin Celebrini, massive game. He had a hat trick. So did Taylor Radish of the Rangers, which was kind of hilarious to have dueling hat tricks. But 5 points on the night. Celebrini was in on the goal in overtime, scored by Will Smith as well. So, Michael, go to you first. What is the ceiling for Macklin Celebrini this year? Like, we know he's a top forward on the Sharks, but where does he slot in the NHL when all is said and done this season, based on what we've seen so far?
It's a difficult question, Ryan, because I think a lot of Macklin's game is not going to play well on San Jose this year. And when I say that, I mean, like, San Jose's, this was a rare victory. They're going to get their teeth probably kicked in more nights than they have these kind of wins. And for Macklin, who's, I still think of him as a 200-foot player, a guy that's going to produce as much offensively as he is defensively, it's going to be tough because he just doesn't have the surrounding cast around him, or that surrounding cast is just very young. So enjoy the win. Enjoy the night that you had. The bigger question for me, Ryan, is does this put him on Team Canada's radar? Because he had a great rookie year last year. Obviously, Lane Hudson was the Calder winner, but Macklin was right up there along with Dustin Wolf. And, Celebrini right now, 5 goals, 11 points in 7 games. I'd have him ahead of Connor Bedard if I was making that decision. And I might bring him along in the same reason I would bring along Schaefer. This kid is going to be a mainstay on future Team Canada teams. So why not have him there rubbing shoulders with the McDavids and the Crosbys?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I was with you preseason about Celebrini maybe making that Olympic team. He played at the Worlds on a line with Sidney Crosby. He got the Sidney Crosby stamp of approval, which is always nice. But Connor Bedard's been really good, and it's making me sort of like, okay, well, he's coming along. Celebrini more of a two-way guy, but I will say Bedard in that win over Tampa Bay, he was laying it on the line late in that game when they were protecting that lead, which was great to see. Too. What's that?
He was all bloodied up.
That's right. You love to see it. But it will be interesting because, yeah, you're right. I mean, the Sharks are going to suffer. I mean, their goaltending's not very good at all. Their defense isn't very good at all. But, Nate, yet another NCAA product, Boston U, Macklin Celebrini. Do you see a lot of potential?
6 goals for the Sharks last night, Ryan. Can you predict what all 6 had in common?
I'm going to say NCAA because obviously Will Smith, a Boston College Eagle alum as well, right?
Yep. And I do think, to Mike's point, like, one of the things that the people at BU raved about Celebrini was that he's not just the dynamic offensive player. He's the 200-foot guy. And I think, maybe that potential of the Olympics keeps this team. I think they're a fascinating team to watch. I love watching the Sharks, even though, the wins are going to be rare. They're entertaining. And I think that Olympic prospect is going to be a reason to keep watching them and see, can he play himself on that team?
Yeah, did you guys see that little streeter he did on New York with what was her name, Judy Jupiter? Where him and Will Smith were interviewed outside of a restaurant, and then they did a little twirl showing off their outfits. Like, it's just, I know he's no Alex Ovechkin when it comes to just being that, larger than life personality, but I just love to see that because hockey has been so kind of just so vanilla and boring over the years, and good on Celebrini and Smith for kind of playing along and just having a lot of fun.
Totally. Yeah. You love to see it. You love to see the personality come through, especially at that age when you are a phenom. I feel it does take a few years for them to get used to talking to the media at a national level because they don't want to say the wrong thing. They don't want to make waves. And they don't want to make any presumptions. Even if they were the first overall pick, they know that making the NHL is incredibly difficult. let's go to the promo now. Speaking of all that hockey action, for over 75 years, the Hockey News has been the ultimate hockey fix. Now you can get 12 issues delivered straight to you. Traikos got it right there, packed with stories, stats, and a bonus gift issue to kick things off. Head over to thehockeynews.com or thn.com and get in on the action. Now, let us finish up with rapid fire. This is where we have a lot of fun. Nate, you are in Las Vegas. Traikos and I have obviously been there several times, if not many times at this point. I'll start with you. Favorite restaurant in Las Vegas? Give us the insider scoop. Where do you like to go?
I got to take you guys off the strip, and I'll keep a hockey connection, though. Okay, Las Vegas Brewing Company. They make some great beers. The owner played at Notre Dame, and so you get a Notre Dame sweater, hockey sweater, up on the wall. And apparently, I don't know the full story, but I believe he married a chef, and the food lives up to the beer. So Las Vegas Brewing Company, there's 2 locations, one in the Arts District, which any visitor to Vegas should check out. It's a great area, but then one out in Summerlin, closer to the Knights practice facility. That's the best one in terms of food, so I would go there.
Right on. Mike, I think I know your answer, but I will let you go before me. What's your favorite place to eat in Las Vegas?
This is a Ryan recommendation, the Crack Shack. And it's on the Strip, which is great. If you like hot chicken, you like a little spice in your life and a little crispy skin, Crack Shack is the place to be.
There you go. Yes, excellent chicken there. Because I knew you were going to say that, I'm going to go with another place. And ironically, both Crack Shack and my choice are part of the Park MGM complex. So I'm going with Best Friend. I usually don't eat at restaurants where I know who the chef is or the chef is named, but I really wanted to try it out. I actually went with Greg Wyshynski from ESPN. Roy Choi, I guess he's a famous chef, but it's a fantastic place. It's like sort of like Korean street food. And very cool atmosphere. So I went there and had some amazing ramen. So I'll go with Best Friend this time, but I have gone to Crack Shack, I think 3 or 4 times already in the past couple of times I've been to Vegas. So a great spot there.
My runner-up is, and I know the chef as well, Steve Aoki's Pizza, Ryan.
There you go. In the food court of the Aria, I think. Right?
As good as the DJ is, he's even a better pizzeria owner.
That's right. If something is circular, he knows how to spin it. Next question, yay or nay? AHL Milwaukee, who often have fantastic jerseys, some of my favorites. They will be trotting out a special jersey soon featuring a skating refrigerator mascot, an anthropomorphic refrigerator. The Admirals, even though they have the fantastic pirate skeleton logo, originally they were nicknamed because of Admiral appliances. Back in the day when teams were just named after companies that sponsored them or were owned by them. So yay or nay on a skating refrigerator mascot? Nate, I'll go to you first.
I'll go yay because it's more clever than most sponsored jersey logos. Yay.
Right on.
Yeah,
Mike,
I haven't seen it, Ryan. I'll say yay just because, you sold me on skating refrigerator, okay? I don't need to see anymore.
There you go. I'm going to go yay as well. It definitely has like a minor league baseball vibe to it where teams will do something fun for a game or two and have like the special jerseys and hats. But this one suits it. Yeah, I mean, I've never seen a skating refrigerator before, so points for originality there. Last one, we're taking it all the way back full circle to the beginning of the show. Over under 30 goals for Alex Ovechkin this year. Just for the sake of, we'll say 30.5. So it's a true over under. Mike, I know you couldn't wait, so I'll go to you first. Over under 30.5 goals for Ovi this year.
I'm going over because the last time he didn't score 30 or more goals, Ryan, was back in 2021. And the reason he didn't score 30 goals is he only played 45 games. So as long as Alex is going to play, 50 games or so, he's guaranteed to get 30. Like he rolls out of bed and he's got 30 goals. So over.
Right. Over. Okay, Nate, over under 30.5 goals for Ovi.
Over, and I think pretty soon here you're going to see a real hot streak like he had leading up to the record breaker last year. So over for sure.
Right on. I'm going to say over for now, but I do need to see that hot streak because if it doesn't happen soon, I might be a little leery of it. But if we've learned anything over the NHL in the past almost 2 decades at this point, it's that you do not bet against Alex Ovechkin scoring a goal because most likely he's going to do it, and maybe multiple times. Nate Ewell, thanks so much for being on the show today. I am Ryan Kennedy. That's Michael Traikos. This has been The Big Show, brought to you by True Hockey. We'll see y'all later.